So we are going to begin. Good morning. This is a meeting of the future subcommittee of the Expenditure and Revenue Study Committee on Friday, February 6th. And we'll start with a roll call. Cliff,
Here.
Chair Green,
Here.
the Duff,
Here.
and the chair is here. So we will proceed. The first item of business are the minutes. Do you need to see the draft minutes? Or are you prepared to move them?
I'm prepared to move. I reviewed them and I'm happy to move to approve the minutes.
I get a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion or is there anyone who wishes me to pull the minutes up? All right, in that case, let's proceed with approving the minutes of January 30th. We're on a roll call. Cliff,
Yes, I approve. Aye.
what was that, Cliff?
I'm sorry. Aye. Yes.
Yes. Chair Green,
Yes. Sergio, you can call me Bernard.
Bernard, thank you. Bernard,
Okay.
this is, like in the Latin countries where there's the formal vous and tu and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll dispense with formalities. Thank you. Sadaf, on the minutes.
Yes.
The chair votes aye and the minutes are approved from January 30th. The next item would be to discuss the development memo, which has been evolving, and there have been a number of folks who have participated and offered commentary as recently as yesterday. And there's been an effort to incorporate those. And in particular, I'm trying to bring this up. I'm hoping you can see this. Get it a little bigger. Is that big enough? If it is, I'm going to go to the small corrections that have occurred in the last 24 hours. The first is that under item 8, which was a recommendation relating to the idea of some streamlining possibilities, which had been originally suggested in the very first draft from Bernard, we had made some technical errors in the wording. So this is a recommendation to allow the planning board to have greater discretion on these points. Sorry about this. Hang on a minute. Here we go. They do not currently have that authority. And under state law, basically what's going on is that there were cases that started in about 2013 where if you had a pre-existing non-conforming building, for example, the courts decided that you did not need a special permit if there was a finding in which the change was not significantly more detrimental to the neighborhood. So this is just one example of the suggestion that we're making, and we wanted to correct the language. The other area, if I can find it. Oh, God, let's see here. Were some technical corrections related to the town's practice regarding these financial impact models. We were missing a specific reference to the earlier model. This model had emerged from the work that had originally been done by BFAC and was then reworked. So this is a minor technical correction. And I don't recall if there are really any others. That may be it. So with those two areas of revisions, this memo is before us for discussion and potentially a vote to adopt it. Cliff, I didn't know if you wanted to add any commentary.
Now, the only thing I would add is that a version was posted earlier this week, version 5. What Sergio's just gone over is, you can see up top, version 8. And the changes he just discussed are the only changes from version 7, which was posted last night, I believe. Version 7 has some significant, many changes from version 5. And so I would, if you haven't had the chance to look at version 7 or 8, I would recommend that you do that, because otherwise our conversation might go back a couple of steps. As Sergio said, there's been a lot of input over the last few days, and we've been trying to incorporate as much as we can. It's been sort of a constant process.
Okay.
Chair Green, Bernard?
Yeah. I think I've been caught up with the various versions of this memo. My concern still is the language regarding select board members being economic development experts or serving that role. Again, that's an inappropriate use or inappropriate thing for the select board to be doing. That's the job of the town administrator. And I just don't get the sense that there's an appreciation of the fact that people are elected to the select board for a variety of reasons. And it's not necessarily going to be the case that that's going to include the level of so-called expertise that is implied by this memo.
So I want to address that, at least from at least from my perspective. And there certainly was an attempt to modify the language. It in no way is suggesting that a select board member has to be elected to office as an expert in economic development. What the recommendation here is, which is different, I believe, than what BFAC said. It's modified from that. Maybe not in this particular paragraph. It might not be as clear as I think it is later on. We're not suggesting that the person on the select board be in charge of economic development. We appreciate that that is a role that because the planning department and or economic development division report to the town administrator, that is a, the day-to-day activity is going to be the responsibility of the town administrator. At the same time, the thinking here is that there are so many different areas where economic development comes up that it would be beneficial to the operations of the select board and to the community to have a single executive have that area as their portfolio. It's not to say that's the only thing that they do, but it is suggesting here, as I think you offered, that there are a number of bodies, commissions, and boards across town that have activities that touch on economic development, and that it's important that there be liaisons. And I think our perspective, which people obviously can disagree with, is that to have different people being responsible for liaising with different groups undermines the ability to have effective cross-fertilization, between what is going on in those groups, that would be that would benefit from having one individual be the liaison. And maybe it's two individuals because you want to, have, some depth to the bench, if you will, and you have to prepare for turnover and all that type of stuff. But it is concentrating the involvement, and that leads to deeper knowledge and deeper understanding on the part of one or two individuals that can then be imparted to the entire select board, and that you can then have someone who might be able to talk to people in the public and be able to discuss, everything that's happening from a holistic perspective, as opposed to, this person's talking to planning, this person's on this particular committee, that person's talking to this over here. And because of the nature of the open meeting law, you guys can't talk to yourselves behind the scenes, in theory. And so you have that education, that knowledge with one person who can then, again, bring it all together in conversations with the public and with their compatriots on the select board. It is not suggesting that someone be responsible for day to day. It is not suggesting that someone have to have those qualifications when they come in to the select board, because that's, that you can't say that to the voting public. But it does, at least from our perspective, I believe, suggest a more efficient way for the select board to deal with the various things that are going on related to economic development.
I guess my one reaction is that select board members have a lot of priorities. Economic development is just one, and some of the other priorities that we're really under pressure to push, like housing, may not be aligned with economic development on all issues. I just don't see the practicality of one select board member becoming what you really are saying is an expert on economic development. It creates a situation that that expert may have certain credibility among certain members of the public, and their views will sort of outweigh those of other select board members. I mean, there's just a lot of problems with this idea. And I did suggest an alternative, which we're trying to put together. We haven't haven't completed yet, and that is a more robust liaison relationship between the select board and key economic development bodies around town.
I understood. I mean, I'm just offering that, certainly from my perspective, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, that diffuse efforts water down the effectiveness of the effort. And it's, again, not to say that this person or two people, that's the only thing they're looking at. And I think it's really important to understand and appreciate that, because certain select board members do have affiliations. One of the recommendations here, it's a strong one, is that whoever is in this role not have any affiliation with any advocacy group, past or present, that has to deal with, has focus on economic development related activities, for the very reason that you have just stated, because of the potential for perceived bias. And I think that is that's going to be a challenge, but it's certainly something that, again, at least from my perspective, would benefit the community if whoever was focused on this could be viewed as independent from those other political pressures. But again, look, this is subject to a vote of the group, right? And maybe the group agrees, maybe it doesn't. Maybe there are suggestions that people want to make. I certainly appreciate the nuance that you're offering. I personally obviously feel differently.
So
Oh,
go ahead, Bernard.
oh, I was actually chiming in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So look, I understand the concerns, but I don't think this should be viewed as expecting that individual who's serving as a champion or point of contact from within the select board to have necessarily a particular background or professional area of expertise. This is really about identifying somebody who's going to spend time thinking about and advocating for economic development. So I don't think that person needs to come from a particular professional background or otherwise. And I think there's benefit in creating some accountability, even if it's loose, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's not like this individual has any specific targets or things like that. But I think that having that role in name, having somebody on the select board feel accountable for that specifically is a way to ensure that it's more likely to move the ball forward in this process. So I actually like this idea. I'm not sure if other communities have used this effectively. I think that to the extent that they have, that could be a compelling example for why this is important. But I think philosophically, it's always good to have somebody who is accountable and spends their time thinking about a particular issue. I mean, obviously, they'd have to think about other things as well, but.
Well, we have a lot of things going on the select board.
Of course.
And I don't think that this proposal sort of takes that into account. The current way that we do it, the current system is select board members, in effect, become not experts, but knowledgeable of economic development and other areas by working with the various public bodies around town, and in some cases based on their background. My concern is that you're creating a formal position for a select board member that is going to create a lot of conflict. For example, the planning department or other departments, because this be proposed for other areas, getting getting inconsistent direction from the select board and from the town administrator. Right now, the town administrator gives direction to the planning department based on the select board's goals and our requests to the town administrator. I just don't like the idea of us formalizing a situation where one select board member is expected to be the expert and is being held responsible for any problems that people see in our town in economic development area.
Bernard, if I may, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How do you view your colleague Paul Warren's relationship to EDAB? Because he appears at the EDAB meetings and I believe helps bring EDAB information back to the full board.
That is an informal relationship that Paul has just taken up. What I propose and what we're trying to do through with our new deputy town administrator or assistant town administrator is to set up a more formal liaison structure where the liaisons attend meetings, provide some insight and direction from the select board, and more importantly, reports back to the select board. Right now, we don't have that type of reporting back. that I think would be helpful to improve the way we interact with public bodies.
So
I-
I
so
think
I-
you, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, pick up on a couple of things. First, Bernard, I do not believe that what is suggested here is what you've described. Okay, it is not suggesting that this individual take over for the town administrator. In fact, we went to great lengths
No, I
to,
didn't say that.
well, to change that perception. It is not to suggest that this person be influencing, the activities of a department, so that there would be conflict between this individual and what the town administrator is saying. Again, that, to me, that is something that we went to great lengths to try to eliminate. I do think that the current structure of having different select board members participate in different study committees or liaise with different groups has not worked well, because you do have people who have agendas. That's very clear. And because they have agendas, when they are liaising or talking with a group, they are imparting their own perspective, as opposed to being what you have described. If you have someone whose role it is, and again, this is not their only role. You keep suggesting that this is the only thing this person would be doing. It's not. They're still a select board member. And BFAC, by the way, I believe recommended that this sort of a structure be used for more than just economic development, but be that as it may. I think we're trying to suggest an approach that would work better than what you have right now. And I don't think the way it's written, again, I appreciate that maybe the wording needs massaging. I don't know. Because a lot of it's soft. There's a broad recommendation, and there's a lot of words like could be, right? Or, yeah, could, not must. All right. It's really designed to yeah, elevate the level of knowledge that is someone on the select board is able to bring back to their colleagues. And, it doesn't replace the planning department. The person doesn't replace the town administrator, but you do have a focused responsibility, and that I don't understand how that could not be viewed as beneficial, particularly given the way that you guys are spread thin.
So,
Yeah, can I just add one thing? There's no select board member that does not have an agenda. And by formalizing this position, you're sort of making that agenda more influential on the select board than it is now. So that's.
So let me
excuse me, Cliff.
Yeah, I'm sorry, please.
No, I'm going to interrupt for the following reason.
Yeah.
This is a report and it's a draft. So I'm going to ask the subcommittee the following. We can either leave this and not try to vote it and change language, or we can take a vote as it is, understanding that this is nothing but, we have no power and we have no authority. This is a recommendation. And this is a recommendation being made to the subcommittee. It will get discussed at the full committee, who may share the concerns that Bernard has raised and strike out pieces we don't know. But I think we should not belabor the point. I think Bernard has made it. It's clear he has important comments, and they'll get made later on. So what do you guys want to do as a subcommittee? Cliff, you've been, I think, the primary author. Do you want to try to vote this, or do you want to try to table it for the moment and come back next week with some language change?
Uh, well, I
Sorry to be blunt,
no,
but
that's okay. That's okay. That's fair, and I appreciate your suggestion. I totally agree with it. I think I would need help in terms of if we want to massage the language more. I'm happy to do that because it's, you know, I don't think there is, I don't think we're trying to put in place what Bernard is concerned about. I think we're trying to do something actually that achieves what we feel is important and does not put in place what Bernard is
right. So
concerned about.
I have another idea, which is you could make the motion for the language as it exists. We have some written material that we've received from Bernard raising his concerns. That could be a minority report.
It could if you can tell me who's going to author it.
What do you mean by author it?
Just
It's
what I said.
authored. It's been written by a member of this committee, Bernard.
And how is it so just
We would promulgate both. We would,
okay, just let me finish. Let me finish my question. Just to be clear, a minority report has to be voted by someone.
Yeah, and I can't vote.
well, I would respectfully disagree. I believe that I, as chair of this committee, would be able to accept the comments received by Bernard as a minority report. Here's a particular perspective that's being offered on the language put forward. Why?
Fine. So that we don't argue semantics about, you know, letting people see what someone has written versus calling it a minority report, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, Bernard?
I really hate to say this or suggest this because I got a lot of things going on this week, but it's probably not that difficult. I could propose some changes that address my concerns in red line copy, and you can do with that what you want.
Well, that's certainly a way to go. And if the subcommittee is prepared to do that, we can simply take this item off the table, offer you that opportunity, and we would reconvene next week and see whether there's consensus. How does the subcommittee feel about Bernard's suggestion?
I'm actually fine with it, and you know, I do think it also gives us the opportunity to put together a complete report that includes all the attachments that are mentioned in the write-up. So
Yeah, I agree. I think that's fine.
All right. So why don't we do that? Thank you for that. I think, Bernard, you've probably, you know, between the various comments and communications, you probably have the guts of what you are going to be saying. So
yeah, it's not gonna be that hard. It's just it's one little thing on piled on top of many little things.
no,
But
I
can do
appreciate
that.
it. And
Yeah. Could you send me the most recent version with all the
I will.
Okay, good.
I will take care of that. Cliff, I wanted to then ask you, we had some other items that have been posted, and I didn't know whether you wanted to talk about them. One of them was I guess we'd call it an economic development scorecard. Or
so yeah, so I that was sort of what I was referring to in terms of putting together all the attachments. with the economic development scorecard, which has been circulated, is a document that was authored, put together by Ken Lewis, a member of EDAB, in consultation with Ann Myers, who is the chair of EDAB, and others, I'm sure. And it's a long document. It's got, I don't know that we want to go through it point by point or project by project. It was designed, or it is designed to offer a view as to things that certainly members of EDAB feel that the town has done well over the years, and what the town has not done well or missed opportunities, and explanations for why they have that perspective.
So here, I've got it up very briefly. They should have seen this, but basically, I think it's an effort to try to capture some of the things that members feel the community has done well, and talks about different aspects of that. And then I think perhaps of more interest and maybe usefulness are suggestions about things that perhaps were not done well, including some that go back in time many years, all the way back to the Peter Fuller building and the decision of the town to not accept that. So this would be, I think, included. It comes right up to the current, including the Chestnut Hill commercial area, which is developed here. And then there's, some things which are yet to be determined, if you will. We don't know the outcomes and so on and so forth. So this would be an exhibit, fundamentally. And so I wanted to just socialize it for a moment, encourage you to look at it if you haven't. And it would become part, I think, of our vote next week, should it pass muster with the committee to be included as an exhibit. Were there any other development-related items that you wished to discuss, Cliff, at this time? Okay. So with that in mind, let's move on to the OPEB discussions. And Cliff, what is it that you would like to start with? You're muted, Cliff. You're muted.
Yeah, so we talked about OPEBs last week, and we asked for some information from Lincoln, who did distribute it to us. And I found that information to be particularly interesting, as certainly as I was reading it and interpreting it. And I'm trying to see whether or not it's actually in this.
Yeah, I don't know which one you're specifically, but I have the scorecard available here. Maybe that's a good starting point.
Right. So, what I did when I got this information was to take a look at the scorecard that Moody's put together when they issued our last rating. Now, the scorecard stops at 2023. So the information is out of date because of that. But it's been pretty interesting. If you look at the different Moody's criteria, they actually have ranges or values for each of the ratios or values for things like per capita, full value per capita, that they break down and they state what is a AAA range, what is a AA range or A range, all the way down to, BAA or C. And what I found interesting was to see how our ratios have been moving and where we stand when you look at, you know, each individual component. So, Sergio, I don't know if you have that range, the scorecard range.
Yeah, you mean the scorecard itself? Yeah, I mean the Moody's.
Yeah.
Methodology.
Right, the methodology. So, and I have not gone back and compared this to the scorecard that we used or looked at when BFAC was operational, because Moody's has changed its methodology a little bit. And there are different groupings that Moody's looks at and gives weightings to. So, for example, the economy section has, this is not it, Sergio. The actual
I'm working on it. I'm trying to get
okay,
it.
I'm sorry.
I have
It was
it.
posted.
I have it handy if you want me to pull it up. Are you talking about the Moody's PDF that you shared, Cliff? I have it. I'm just looking at it this morning.
Yeah, it's their actual analysis card.
I see. Not the ranges from the PDF document. Is that what you're?
No, the ranges, yeah.
Yeah, the ranges here. Let me. This, right?
Yes.
Wait a minute, I'm not seeing anything.
No, I am.
Okay.
Sadat is sharing her screen, Sergio. So what do you see on your screen?
I've just got the group right now, but that's fine. You guys go ahead.
Okay, so the scorecard, you can see that there are factors, like the economy factor is 33% of the overall rating. There are individual components that are assigned weights. I think I may not have correctly done this, but when you look at where we stand, our income, resident income, first line, we're at a AAA rating, AAA range. Same as for full value per capita, same as for economic growth, although our economic growth is trending down. It's pretty interesting that to get a AAA rating, you need a greater than zero real difference in the local growth rate versus the US growth rate. So you don't need a lot, just a little. Next is the financial performance, 30% in total. On the available fund balance ratio, we currently are at a AA rating, but we are trending up. When you look at that sheet that we were looking at before, we're trending up. Our liquidity ratio, we're at a AAA. Liquidity is going down, but we are still substantially above the bottom line for what AAA sub rating would be. F, institutional framework, which is 10% of the rating overall, we're at a BA, which is the last, well, it's, there you go. That's a pretty, there's nothing we can really do about that, because as you can see, it's our revenue, majority of our revenue is capped by Prop 2.5. So we're always going to be dealing with this particular problem. You go to the next one, long-term liabilities. We currently are at an A rating and trending up.
And actually on this one, and I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Sure.
Cliff. I mean, this is an interesting one because we have had a bunch of debt come online related to Pierce. And I'm curious what the latest numbers around this are, because the last numbers were from 2023, which is something that you mentioned in your comments as well. but, it would be helpful to see, even if, no doubt the town is tracking this data from 24 and 25 as well. And I'd love to see those numbers specifically around debt, because that's such a consistent topic of conversation, as a critical indicator. And I think this number will have changed presumably quite a bit.
Well, so,
think- Can I just interrupt for a minute? One thing you
Sure.
want to do here, maybe Lincoln wants to address this.
Yep.
But the point here is that the long-term liabilities contains a number of things.
Yes.
Debt is only one small part of it.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that it's funding the reserve accounts that's really causing the trend to go up.
Yep.
Am I correct in
It's
that?
not, it's not the reserve accounts. It's the funding of, I want to come back to this because this is something that actually requires a little bit of nuance, because looking at our own balance sheet, you can't come back to this calculation by looking at our balance sheet. And I want to just review that for people. The fixed cost ratios is the last one, is it's AA is where we are. And I would call it sort of a stable. It bounces around a little bit, but it's sort of stable. So the long-term liabilities ratio, if we go back to the prior sheet that was up, that looks at the scorecard that Moody's put together for us.
All right, I'm bringing that up.
Yeah. Okay, if you can make it larger and then scoot over to the left.
Working on it.
Okay. Okay. And scroll down. Okay, right here. And so long-term liabilities ratio, you can see we've gone from 391% down to 236% in 2023. That is a rather substantial change. And the components of this are long-term debt and the unfunded liabilities for pensions and OPEBs as calculated by Moody's. And so this is where we come into the issue of, they use something that they call forget the term. They don't take the number that's on the balance sheet. They take the number that's on the balance sheet and they modify it first by increasing it, because they use a discount rate that is lower than the discount rate that's used in our actuarial situation. They're using more of a risk-free rate, and that will make the balances in general go up. But then they take do a calculation, I'm sure Lincoln can explain it better than I'm going to right now, that doesn't look at the total ratio, the total amount right now, but spreads it out over a period of time and factors that in to the long-term liabilities. And then that's divided by revenues. Now, I was really surprised at the progress the town has made here. And because this is only at 2023, there's been 2 years of additional growth in certainly the equity markets that I'm really curious to see what this number is going to be when we do our actuarial valuation in this year, and how that might be reflected in what in an up-to-date Moody's calculation. As it currently stands, we are much closer to a AA value here, which is which would be that 235 would be 200. 200 is the the level that we would need to reach in order to be a AA rating for this particular sector. To get back to, or to go worse than single A, we'd have to go back up to over 350%. That's, I believe, unlikely, unless I'm totally misunderstanding something. So I think the town is looking much better here than I certainly anticipated that it was going to. And because of that, it sort of makes the discussion that we raised a little bit easier to talk about. But before I kind of go into that, Lincoln, is there anything that you could add here or feel needs correcting?
No,
Sabat?
would you like me to speak, Chair? Or, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you. No, Sergio, I excuse me. No, Cliff, I don't think there's anything to correct. I think there's some, I do have some thoughts. I think there's some things to keep in mind here as we're going here. So let me step back a minute and point out some sort of macro things. So to Cliff's point, he's absolutely correct. There are a series of factors that go into our rating with Moody's over which the town government has limited to no control, right? So the institutional framework, the income per capita, certainly certainly there's indirect, impacts with respect to the economic growth, but no direct impact, right? So that is the reason why finance staff, why Melissa and myself have made recommendations to the select board, which the board has adopted, that focus in on the factors that contribute most to us not meeting AAA, that are more within the direct control of the town, right? So to Cliff's point, he's absolutely correct. The available fund balance ratio and the long-term liabilities ratio. What's true in the last, and so not only is Moody's looking at where we are, longitudinally, but they're also looking at how do we compare to other AAA rated municipal entities in Massachusetts, of which there are 14 under Moody's. And in that metric, we are still, in the bottom 25th percentile in these factors. So we have made progress, and that's been by design, right? It's been because we already had some strong policies, and those policies have gotten stronger with the board's leadership, with the board adopting these changes to strengthen the long-term liabilities ratio factor and the available fund balance ratio factor. So when we're comparing ourselves with the other 13, we are one of the very few there where the scorecard indicates that we, Brookline, should be AA1 instead of AAA. Nevertheless, they account for that, but we are in the danger zone. I think, objectively, we're in the danger zone. How much of a danger zone is not a science, but an art. But for example, at the last time that we were measured against the other AAA Massachusetts rated municipalities, we were second worst, so to speak, on the long-term liabilities ratio and third worst, again, out of 14 on the available fund balance ratio. We've made progress. We're seeking to, continue to make that progress. I think the other thing is, to Cliff's point, this is measured on fiscal year 2023 factors. We have our fiscal year 2024 audit now, so I'm seeking to have these factors updated, and we should have that shortly. I think we've made some progress, but relative to our peers, our other 14 peers, we'll see what progress relatively we've made. I think a big factor to keep in mind as far as the available fund balance ratio goes is that, well, Cliff's right. We've made some significant progress there. The OPEB liability, when we again, our OPEB liability is measured every 2 years, and the next measurement date is June 30th of this year. Over the last two measurements, that is June 30th, 2022 to June 30th, 2024, the growth of OPEB for health insurance for retirees, their spouses, dependents, survivors, that grew on average about $20 million each year. So that is, one of the primary factors that we're looking at when making those recommendations to the select board that the board adopted, which is, yes, we've been making progress, but in order to make progress, in order to continue that progress, we have to acknowledge that that portion of the liability is growing very quickly from valuation to valuation. So in 2022, it was at $262.1 million. In 24, it was $301.7 million, average of $20 million a year. We'll see what the new actuarial evaluation says, but I don't think there's there's no reason to believe that rate of growth will reduce when we're looking at the growth in health insurance costs that that the committee as a whole has heard about. So that, in combination with the continued issuance of debt, of significant new debt for the Pierce School and for the fire station renovations, we hope to continue to make progress, but I don't think it's a sure thing. I think there are those two factors: OPEB, the growing OPEB liability, and that debt that was just issued that countervail that. So those are my thoughts per folks asking for them, but happy to answer any questions and give any other feedback that's helpful.
So a couple of quick comments. It's now 9:54. We're going to lose our quorum at 10 because Sadaf has to leave.
And I do too. Yeah.
So what does the subcommittee want to do? The other item that we were looking at was the possibility of voting the solar narrative. Cliff, what would you like to do here with the OPEB? We don't have a vote on OPEB, as I recall.
No, we don't. But so what I would like to just say is that, well, a couple of things. First, yeah, OPEBs, we need to understand what's going to happen there. Also, though, if you're looking at, we're expecting our pension liability to be fully funded by 2030. And what the memo that we have been circulating, which has been significantly modified since last week, really is looking at, okay, what might we want to be doing as 2030 approaches in evaluating what options might exist beyond just taking $40 million in over 4 or 5 years getting rid of OPEBs. Because if another override is going to be needed in 2030, maybe that's not the best use of that money. Maybe it is. And the recommendation is going to be that the select board put together a committee to evaluate the options that might exist as we get closer. And that's a committee that, could start working next year, and it could be hanging around for a few years as things get evaluated. Because there's going to be a lot of changes if we meet our goal of retiring the pension liability by 2030. I'm going to be curious to see how Moody's actually factors it, because we're going to be using a discount rate higher than what they'll use in terms of valuing our long-term liabilities. Anyway, that's all I want to say for now. I agree there's nothing we we can do right now, but people should take a look at how things have been modified in the
So-
memo.
Do I correctly understand that we're going to leave this for now?
Sure.
You are going to revise a recommendation and a vote, and we'll take it up next week.
Okay,
Is that correct?
I guess it is. If you say so. Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think that's probably sensible. And so that leaves us with the possibility of taking a look at the solar narrative report, which I'm trying to screen share here.
Sergio, can I,
Yes, please.
let's see, what is it called? Moody's scorecard, calculations in the packet online
Yes.
is formatted in such a way that's really not useful. Can someone send me a good version of that? Could you
Yeah.
do that, Lincoln?
I can do that, sure. I'd be happy
Okay,
to.
good. Thank you.
And Sergio, I have to drop, but I reviewed this document. I added comments, so I'm just going to email that to you so you can see the comments in the document.
So you're not ready to vote it, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, for this, actually, I mean, I'm ready to vote it. I just
Well,
had
I'm sorry, the comments were on,
on the
Okay.
solar narrative. I just had some small. I had just had some small comments and feedback. It was minor, so I'm comfortable with this version. It was more.
okay. So this report is a document I think everyone has seen. What I did was I added an executive summary, which you have not seen, which is pretty simple and straightforward.
Yeah, I think this was sent out, so I did review this.
Okay. It was sent out, but it was sent out quite late.
Yeah.
The other thing I did is I was able to incorporate the cost benefit memo that had been previously a standalone, and it's now in the document, which I think is important, including its assumptions. So that's the second change. And then the only other area was that the memo from sustainability had two tracks. The first track that's immediate, that's being covered by the 3.2 million, but it does not, we had not addressed the question of what happens after that. And so I thought that it was important to include something here about going forward beyond that point, and to continue to encourage the town to make the kinds of investments that are useful and necessary. And the last thing was that in the vote of the full committee, we stripped out the recommendations that the subcommittee had made, and we were told to put it into the report. And so that's what I've done, literally put the language that had been in the vote into the report. Questions and the possibility of voting this report, I'd like to make that motion if we can get a second.
So moved.
Okay. So is there any further discussion? And are you feeling ready to vote the report, or would you like to also postpone this to next Friday?
So I'm okay voting the report just with one comment, which is that in your section, the funding of track 2, I think the last paragraph there, it's just a little bit unclear there around the first sentence. Perhaps most significantly, however, the solar initiative offers a clear opportunity to bring electricity purchase portion of the town's budget to near zero in a cost and effective manner, et cetera.
Where are you? Oh, yeah, here.
Yep. That's right. It just wasn't clear. I assume you're referring to that $25 million investment that we haven't made yet.
Correct.
I found that I just found that a little, the transition is confusing. I thought it was worth clarifying. My other comments are very minor, and I'm happy to vote this without the other clarifications. But this bit I think is worth just clarifying that does refer the full 25 million that is not funded.
All right. What do you want to do here? Do you want to add the words
I would add, perhaps most significantly, however, the solar initiative, when fully funded or if fully funded, would offer that clear opportunity. And I think if we did that, I think it's more clear.
Something like that?
Yeah, that works for me. Like I said, the other ones were really minor and I don't think are worth.
Okay.
It's more important to vote this than to make
Are
those.
there any other thoughts or comments? Bernard?
No, I like the document. I do want to look at it again.
Would you like
can
time
vote it.
to not vote and put it to
No,
side
no,
next
no, no.
week?
I don't think that that's necessary. You did include the source of the money for this initiative in here, right?
It's cash, CIP cash.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought I saw that. I just wanted to double check. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And,
in,
that's important because it's a lot of money, and people have to realize where it's coming from. That we're not going to be taking it out of somewhere else.
Right.
In direct sense. Okay. Hey, I got to go. Sorry.
all right, so just to
Thank
get a
you.
vote on this.
I don't vote, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, very good. Sadaf,
Yes.
Cliff,
Yes,
and the chair votes aye, and we'll forward this cleaned up to the full committee. Thank you. It's now 10:02.
Thank
And I
you.
think we're going to need to adjourn. We've lost Bernard and Sadaf. Thank you. And thank you all.